Okay, so got it. So I understand that this meeting is being recorded, and I would like to request that the recording of this meeting also be sent to me.
Absolutely.
Of course, yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So,
So, Antoinette, we really wanted to give you the floor today to, first of all, just start off with all of us listening and having you go into like to be able to go have the space and go deeper into some of the issues that you mentioned in your last email.
okay. So what I'll do is I'll just start from current events backwards before I jump back to the beginning of this. And with the last meeting that I had with Sammy, it was stated that, oh, well, the landlord, after July 31st, they want to start talking about basically commercial leasing with the landlord. And, we're willing and he's willing and everybody's now willing to have that conversation. I've been going through this for over 6 months now. And not once was he willing to have that conversation. Not once was he willing to even have a conversation with me. So what kind of relationship is it that I'm basically being pushed off onto? That doesn't seem healthy. The last time we met, we discussed basically restarting the activation. The end of that email said, basically, we feel like you had a full activation, and that is basically where we're going to leave you. And that was not the terms of our last conversation. That's why we went ahead and agreed to not even push the stairs further and get the coding done on the stairs, that we just went ahead and ripped them down, even though the contractor that came to rip them down basically said that those stairs were immaculate, and within an hour he could have had them up to code. None of that was considered. But now that all my money's been wasted, all my time's been wasted down the drain, now let's talk about paying him for me staying there, which is still uninhabitable. And we all know that that place was uninhabitable, and it still is. And now we want me to pay for it. I mean, let's just start there.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to start. And so what I heard, Antoinette, is that you, from our last conversation, well, first of all, that there hasn't been conversations between you and the property owner until now. Is that correct? That's one item. The second is the removal of the stairs and the money spent on that. So that's the second item I heard. And then the third is around understanding of where we left off in terms of your restarting an activation. Did I miss anything that we should touch upon?
No.
At least for now. Okay. So I think I'll go ahead and just kind of address the first two specifically because in the conversation that we had at your spot last time that we were all there, we had mentioned the way that we're even able to have Seattle Restored happen in the first place, which is the city works with Shunpike and Seattle Good Business Network. And Shunpike has a history of over a decade of running a storefronts program in which they are the master leaser of spaces. For us to be able to get participants into these spaces is based off of a lease between the landlord and Shunpike, based off of the backing of the city. And so as a participant, you're provided a sublease, which means that you are a subtenant and that of the space. But legally, every property owner is bound contractually only to Shunpike because that they are the master leaser. And I also remember us sharing that, definitely validate and affirm that that sucks that the property owner has not spoken. I believe there was an initial meeting from what I remember that you did meet one of the representatives for the property owner when you first walked the space, however. And I'm getting a confirmation from Sammy and Sabrina on that. There are some property
He
owners.
might have been there. If he was there, I mean, we didn't even exchange words. I mean,
Yeah,
if he was there, he was just standing off in the background. So I don't want to say that I met him, because face to face, if he was standing in a
got
lineup
it.
right now, I couldn't even pick him out.
Okay, got it. That makes sense that there wasn't a lot of interaction, but he was there. So, it is not, there are some activations where the property owners do end up because of who they are. That's just who they are as property owners. They want to get to know the subtenants. They're a lot more hands-on. And there's some property owners that are less hands-on. And I think you have somebody that, as a property, that is less hands-on. And
I
so
don't.
I'm just saying that I absolutely understand your concern about the property owner not having had a relationship with you or spoken to you. That is not how the program though is structured. The reason why we were able to get everybody in so quickly is that there's no negotiations between the property and the participants. Um, However, now that we've actually gone through the process of the activation of the 3-month pop-up and the extension, this is just like all the other, extensions. There are some, and maybe Sammy and Sabrina, if you have anybody where a participant did not talk to the landlord until negotiation, like I think that would be good to know. But now that they've actually gone through the structure of the program with the extension, the next step is opening it up to a long-term lease. Some property owners say, no, I'm done after the extension. Some say that they're done after the 3 months. Yours, although they've never officially, formally like had a sit down conversation with you, they are at this point asking if you'd like to have it now. So if the onus, it's up to you, Antoinette. If you don't want to have this conversation with the property owner, you don't have to. It's just our responsibility as staff of the program to offer that to you.
So that's what I understood. I understood the structure of the program was to be facilitating these relationships from the beginning, not to, at the end of it, basically, after we've basically not shown any good, and I haven't had any avocation to handle the situation that's been going on with the landlord. This program has not helped me at all to facilitate that relationship or rectify anything that has gone wrong with this activation, the things that we all recognize that are wrong with this activation. And for you to ask a small business and come into a place that was not inhabitable, I thought that with Seattle Restored and the fact that you guys knew you were only at most you could give us $3,000 to $4,000 to house a commercial leasing space, that's all we would have to do was move in and be housed. That was not the situation for me. And it's still 6 months down the line, it's not the situation for me, because we all know the condition of that place. And that's why we're on this Zoom meeting now and we're not sitting down there, because we'd probably be down there freezing right now. The fact that I had to sit there and get sick in that place, all of that is true. And all of that are facts that we looked at last time. And that's why we came to the conclusion that we came to.
Right. Before we kind of go into that, I'd really love to create under like what is our understanding of the property owner. Really want to touch upon all three of the issues that you had mentioned. So in terms of the relationship with the property owner, the responsibility of the program is to get you a lease and to support, you in the onboarding, and as well as, obviously issues that arise, which Sammy and Sabrina has. When you said that the program is supposed to facilitate the relationship with the landlord, could you talk a little bit more about that and what were your expectations?
As far as I know that I was a third party tenant. For one, it was the relationship beforehand was never explained as far as who was the actual leaseholder. And at this point, I thought it was Seattle Restored. You're now telling me that it's Shunpike. So we have a lot of people involved here, and none of that involvement and how those people are involved and tied in and who is responsible for what is not clearly laid out in this program.
Can I, okay. Can I ask a follow-up question to that though? Antoinette, did you read your lease?
I did read my lease. I read my lease, and after taking the commercial leasing class, I still felt that, you know, as a tenant, that there still should have been negotiation room. When it said as is, I think I kind of misunderstood that, because I felt that there was no way that they would not come in there and clean and not come in there and at least have it habitable before I moved in. I never thought that a program like this would even think that that would be okay for anyone, especially a small business. And then you telling me that I'm potentially only to be here for 3 months. How much of my own money would you really expect me to invest in a place that I'm only going to potentially be at for 3 months?
Okay. So in terms of why I asked that question is the lease does spell out the program and the relationship, and so that's why I asked. And I hear you, and I think we've already discussed in terms of we can definitely explain it more and more in depth, and want to take that feedback, you know, moving forward. Um, just so you know, Seattle Restored isn't like it's a program, but it isn't an entity. So Seattle Restored as a program can't sign leases because it's 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 a program that's held under contracts between Shunpike, which is a nonprofit organization, Seattle Good Business Network, another nonprofit, and the City of Seattle OED. So we specifically chose Shunpike as a community-based partner, a nonprofit partner, because of their over decade-long experience handling master leases under their storefront program. They have the infrastructure to master lease, they have the infrastructure to provide insurance. And so I just wanted to clarify that that is the reason why Shunpike is on the lease and not Seattle Restored, because legally Seattle Restored cannot be the master leaser. It's not a nonprofit organization or a business, it's a program.
Okay, so I understand that. And that's all cool and fine and dandy. It really doesn't change anything. It really doesn't change the fact that this was a program that was put in place to say do one thing, and that is not what it had done, or had done for me at all, should I say. And so the simple fact is that it's still bringing it back to the fact that from the gate, from the news articles, it's in quotations, it's in the news articles that it says that this was a program we were going to facilitate these relationships. That did not happen at all. When the landlord said that he didn't even feel like he needed to talk to me, and that he only needed to talk to Seattle Restored, that is where I got that idea from.
And
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, like so I'm a program manager as well. So I manage like lots of activations, many participants, and unfortunately, almost none of the landlords talk to the participants because they don't feel that the need to. And I know that's unfortunate. I wish they would do that, but they simply don't. Most of them, you know, like most of the properties are owned by big property management companies. It's not a private person, unfortunately, especially for the commercial spaces. So most of the time they assign a property manager to each space, and the property manager would be in regular contact or not with the participants, but with the landlord specifically, the relationship with all my participants and the people with who we have been getting extension was at the end of their extension. So that's when like they're like, oh, okay, so Seattle, so Shunpike is not going to be the tenant anymore. So now I'm going to meet the prospective tenant of that space and discuss. And it was already a little bit facilitated in the way of like they know who you are and it shows you. They read like, you know, like your property statement and your biography, so they already know who you are. You have already activated that space for a certain period of time. So that helps. But I do understand though, the frustration about it. I'm just, yeah, unfortunately, most of them do not meet the subtenants, unfortunately.
Uh, I can believe that because you have a broader range of knowledge as far as the number of participants that you know about, but I know that I can know at least more than I can count on one hand. And it doesn't seem that that was the case for them. So that as well is seeing it from my point of view. This is what I've witnessed and what I've seen. And like I said, there was no relationship. Everything that happened with the stairs was totally like disrespectful to me and a slap in the face. And now we're like, well, we're ready to facilitate a relationship now. Like that's not I don't see how anybody could think that that's okay, or what has happened to me this whole time that has been fair, or that you feel like I received a full activation because I had access to this space. But we all know that this space was not ever going to be inhabitable for me to do half of the things that I plan to do in that space. And we all know that. I thought that we were restoring downtown Seattle with storefronts that had closed down during the pandemic. And I got placed in a place that we can't even remember when the last time that it was open, and still refused to even bring it up to par to where it would have been if it would have closed down 2 years ago, opposed to 10.
Yeah. And Antoinette, I mean, I just really want to thank you for having these conversations. This is not obviously anywhere anybody wants to be, but I just do want to just continue to clarify and hopefully find ways to gain better understanding and find solutions.
You guys are
So
constantly finding solutions along the way, but the solutions that you guys are finding are not solutions that are helping me. They're
Right.
solutions that are helping everybody else. Every other day I see an email that 9 times out of 10 pertains to a class or a workshop that you're putting together that directly from things that had happened in my situation and that we're all learning from, but I'm the only one who's suffering from it.
Yeah.
We're all learning from it, and you guys are benefiting from it, building your program from the things that are happening to me. Basically, I'm getting used as a stepping stone, and you guys are basically stepping up this program by stepping on me and just seeing what happened to me. And
Antoinette,
Antoinette,
you can definitely feel like that. And I'll say that is nowhere near our intention. And I want to, and Antoinette, I want to bring us back to the conversation that we had in your space, where we listed immediate action items and ways that we are going to rectify the things that absolutely hands down, I personally, and as a program, knew we had to address. And so I want to bring it back to the stairs and clarify that the building of the stairs was not approved. It was not something that any tenant in any space, in any landlord situation can do on their own legally. And so there were different action items. And the first one was to actually try to figure out how those stairs can stay. Sabrina, Sammy went, and they can probably, share again, but we went to the city, to Seattle SDCI, the department that would actually permit this. And where we landed was that, and I know this is a lot more technical and it doesn't take it away, but what my hope is that we understand the reasons why certain decisions were made. So our first attempt was to try to have those stairs stay, even though I had to show an illegal construction to the person that can actually fine the program, fine you, fine the landlord for doing something that was not permitted. But we put it towards in front of Peter, who is in charge of permitting. We try to figure out all different avenues to try to expedite the approval of this permitting. And what is outside of our hands is what is called a establishing of use. So we would have to go through a whole permitting process with an architect, and then submit plans for your stairs. And if there was anything that was out of code, the tenant is the one responsible for bringing it up to code. For something as short as a 3-month pop-up, it is not worth it to go through that process. Then we went to you and said, we can't keep these stairs for just reasons outside of our control. We then asked for you to provide us receipts of what you spent, because we have every intention to refund you every single cent of that. And that was a part of the action steps after that meeting. And from my understanding, we're still waiting for those receipts. And once you do turn those in, you will be refunded. On top of that, the city found a general contractor and paid that general contractor to take down those stairs for you. On top of that, the cleaning definitely, hands down, was an issue. And the program spent over $2,000 to commercially clean your space. And so, and in terms of heat, we would not be able to actually go through a full HVAC renovation in the time spent there. And so that definitely was something in terms of space heaters that, and I absolutely understand that is nowhere near where you wanted it to be. We also had a conversation for you to decide whether or not you felt safe enough to stay there or not, based off of all of the things that we were going to do in your space, with the cleaning, with the extra heaters, with paying you for, the materials for the stairs, as well as paying for the contractor to take it down. We left that meeting thinking that you wanted to stay.
No, I don't believe that was the belief, because that's why my focus was not on getting your receipts. My focus was on updating my proposal. And that's why I updated the proposal, because we were not staying there because it was whether I was safe or not. It was whether I could get up and afford to move in 2.5 seconds, because I couldn't, my activation was going to end in a couple of weeks if I didn't choose to extend it. And that is why I chose to stay there. I did not want to stay there at that point. I didn't want to stay there after we already said we had to tear down the stairs. And when we say taking it back to the stairs, I want to go back to why the stairs ended up, how they ended up there, how I communicated before the stairs were even put up in writing. I have this in writing, in emails several times. I have emails where I sent videos where I sent us putting the stairs up, where you see me in action, nailing and lifting rails. I mean, all of this was happening in over a week's time, that I was communicating this to not only this program, but to the landlord. I had no clue about this coding and everything else. But at that time was the time to say that. Not once the stairs were fully complete. It took me at least a month to complete those stairs. And at no time during that time, I was in full communication of every step of the way. And that could have been prevented, is what I'm saying. That's how we ended up there. So that is why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. That's why. And then, you know, to have to pay $2,000, you had to pay $2,000 for commercial cleaning. And I already had the downstairs filled. So they didn't even clean the downstairs. So imagine what I would have had to pay to have that whole place commercially cleaned. Do you think a small business like me, that was fair to put me in a place that just needed that much cleaning alone, where I was only supposed to be for 3 months? I mean, like, let's be real. I'm a person. I'm a mother. That's what I'm saying. This has not been fair to me at all. And I feel distraught. And I feel, I don't want to say taken advantage of, but in some way. And I don't want to say you, as in this program, and you guys here sitting with me have taken advantage of me, but the landlord sure got his share. And I don't want to give him more of an opportunity to take advantage of me.
I have a question for you, Antoinette. Did you ever feel like anyone from our team forced you into the space? Was there anything
I didn't feel forced in this space, but then I need you to understand the dynamic of people that you're dealing with. You're dealing with Black people that come from, you know, a lot of us come from poverty, you know, and we're trying to make it. A lot of us are first generation business owners trying to make it. And we come from also a culture and a society that made us believe that beggars can't be choosers. So we had to take what we could get, because we don't know when we're going to get these opportunities again. We don't know when we're going to get these chances again.
So it felt like this was like your only shot, basically. And
it felt like my only shot. Look how long I waited for it.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, I really, I was not aware of the stairs until it was built for myself, Antoinette. And so I think the moment that I did hear about it, it was on, I started the process of bringing in our permitting folks. And so again, I cannot and do not control your property owner. And it's really unfortunate that they have been absent, that they haven't talked to you. In terms of the space, we don't expect you to put in a lot of money. Actually, it was never an expectation for any participant to put in money. It's a 3-month pop-up, and so the idea is to treat it as such, and not a space that, you know, you're going to be in until you actually have those conversations and negotiation with for a long-term lease. I really do wish I knew that you were thinking about that, because I would have absolutely said no.
Yes, indeed. But that was the conversation from the beginning. I'm pretty sure not only myself, but a lot of people put that in their proposal, that they are working to build something from the ground up. So everybody, I'm pretty sure most people who move into these places take it seriously and are looking to facilitate a long-term relationship. Nobody's going in there with the hopes to fail in 3 months, you know, and nobody's going in there with that ideal in their head that, you know, this is not going to work for me. You have to believe that this is going to work for you, you know, and you have to do your best to try to make it work for you. Because if you don't do that best in your 3 months, what's going to make them want to keep you there?
And sometimes I often say, you know, if it feels too hard, it's not the right space. And
you know, everything, and when you're talking to somebody who, you know, all their life, everything they've done had to be hard. We had to fight for everything. You know, everything has been a struggle. Everything for us is a power struggle. Everything for nobody's ever made it easy. So why wouldn't we expect it to be hard?
yeah, I hear that. I do want to close the if we can, just at least for now, regarding the stairs. You know, a big part of this program and business is you have multiple priorities, Antoinette, as a business owner, as a mom, as a person who's, who has multiple things that you're juggling. So, you know, I'm really glad that you focused on the proposal. And it's not an or, and we would like to be able to reimburse you for the stairs as promised. And so when you get the chance to put together those receipts, I just want to kind of close the loop on that, because that is one of the things that I heard, not just in this meeting, but also in the time that we met with you, is the amount of money that you invested in the space.
Yes.
Obviously we cannot control what different business owners decide to invest outside of the funds that we give you. However, given the situation, because I think we can all acknowledge that there were, that this is, that we all want you to feel like you had an opportunity to activate, and that you are not leaving your activation, with expenses that are going to put you in debt. And that is one place where we felt like, yes, even though it wasn't approved, you were communicating, you were sharing, you were talking about building the stairs, and we want to be able to reimburse you for that. So are you interested in still getting reimbursed?
I am interested in still getting reimbursed, and I can get you those receipts. I got a little quick look tab, file folder, and then my Venmo payments. That's the thing that was holding me up. I don't know how to get those out of there. It doesn't let you take screenshots. I don't know how to get that information in a way that I could show it to you. Or send it to you electronically. So I'm trying to figure that out.
The only thing I check, Antoinette. So like if you have like your W-9, we have your W-9. So we just like need an address. That's it. But like, yeah, have a folder with all the receipts and send that to us.
Okay, like I said, I just got to get the ones out of Venmo. My Venmo information,
yes.
The payments that I sent in Venmo, I don't know how to get those in a form where I can send them over as a document. And so just trying to figure that out. But yes, I do. I would like to go ahead and revisit that. I wasn't even sure if that was going to happen or not, if that was part of the agreement. That wasn't clearly stated out, so I didn't want to assume that that was going to happen. But I am interested in that, and I can get that over to you.
Great, thank you for that. And the sooner the better, but just so you know, the way that funding works is the money that is spent this year, we have until the end of the year to be able to reimburse. So, but to be able to do that in a way that goes through all of the systems with the city of what Shunpike has to do once they get that information to submit it to OED, and then OED submits to finance, and then finance has to, it's a whole process, just letting you know, because I really want to kind of communicate, given that that's, something that's been brought up. If I would not submit it later than like October.
Okay, no, it shouldn't take that long at all.
Okay. Sabrina, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I do want to I did work the most on the permitting, and I do really want to give you some clarity on the stairs and what happened there. Because at the very beginning of this meeting, you did mention that building the stairs and having them demolished doesn't make any sense if you're going to stay long term, and now you would potentially have to rebuild them. So the problem actually isn't that the stairs aren't up to code, it's that the building isn't up to code. And so it's definitely not personal. The problem is that the property managers do not want to update the building code. So you actually wouldn't be able to build stairs even if you did stay long term. That is what the property managers have expressed. So even if you were to have stayed, you would have had to take them down regardless.
And Sabrina, can you just elaborate a little bit more? Because I think it's really jaw-dropping to hear that a building is not up to code,
Yes.
but actually the majority of Pioneer Square buildings are not up to code. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So a lot of buildings that were built prior to 1945 are not earthquake safe. And when you build something up against a wall, the bracing can fall down if there's even slight movement. Like if there's even the tiniest earthquake, the bracing can fall down and the entire building can crumble when there's additional weight up against the wall. So it is the building's problem. The property managers have expressed that they do not want to update it. They don't want to go through, it is a year-long process to update it. And you need an architect, you need engineers. So they don't want to do that for a building that is currently mostly vacant. And I can't say as to whether or not they would change their minds if you were to stay in this space. So that staircase, yes, it does extremely suck that you had to build it, take it down. And if you were to stay in the space now, again, you still can't have it, but it's not a personal thing. It's just the building.
I do understand. I do understand. So we have the landlord who probably knew this from the gate, and he's advertising this as 1,100 square feet when he knows that you're only able to inhabit or basically safely access 600 square feet of it. That was a misinterpretation, you know, false advertisement, whatever you want to call it. It was another misleading thing. Another way that I was misled, should I say.
Yeah, and I don't know if on paper, I think on the actual like information it said 1,100, but I do remember talking to Sammy that they mentioned that the upstairs is not habitable during your walkthrough.
Yeah. So Jason Miller, who was the broker who showed our space. So on the construction site thingy, like you could see like there was like stairs, and so that's why we asked him, hey, where are the stairs? And actually the stairs of the space before where the mezzanine was in the corridor. But then they built the Indian restaurant next door, so they destroyed those stairs. And
Yeah, so that's what they made it seem like. You know, they took the stairs down because the space was not being used, and they made it seem like the place was inhabitable because there was no way to get up there anyway.
yes.
They never, like, there was no clear explanation of anything, you know. And so all I see is possibilities, you know. I see possibilities. It's my dream. I'm trying to make it come true. I'm seeing the possibilities of, you know, what this place could be, what could happen here, what I could do with it. And I don't know, it just wasn't, it wasn't like, I don't know. Let me just say, so I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying is that this place was inhabitable. It's not, it was never a good idea from the beginning. And I can't, I think it's just messed up, you know, and especially messed up for me, but it's just messed up because, you know, as much as I want to be upset with you all, none of us are, you know, experienced at commercial leasing as far as I know. And so at the end of the day, how a lot of these things, most of us had to find out through experience, bumping into a wall and me doing things that raised questions. Otherwise, you know, still nobody would know that this was a thing, unless somebody like me went and tested the waters and pushed buttons that made people start asking questions. But who does know is these landlords. And yeah, that's pretty messed up. And it's like, really, the same way that you're vetting us as business owners, maybe should go a little bit harder on the property managers that you're vetting as well, because obviously I feel like at the end of the day, from the beginning, he knew what was going on. He knows what he's doing. and he still knows. Mhm.
Yeah, you could be very well right. I don't know what they are thinking, or, I don't believe it was malicious or ill intent, like there was any ill intent, but it doesn't take away the fact that you felt, the way that you do.
Yeah.
And so, I think that brings us to the third um, part, which is the full activation. Um, and so, I don't know, I think I want to hand it over to Sammy and Sabrina in terms of what a full activation is. We maybe can have a discussion around what we understood in terms of how to proceed. It felt pretty clear to me in terms of how we left the last meeting, but let's regroup and actually hone in on what does everybody understand the next steps were in this activation after we left Antoinette's spot. When was that? In
April?
April? Yeah, April.
Yeah, I mean, for usually for my activations, like full activation is 3 months. That's like the regular. And then like if a property manager wish to extend or not, that could be up like from 3 months to 9 months. But the initial activation, an activation should last 3 months at the minimum, 3 months. And to me, or at least what I understood, was that since like we were trying to do this activation until July 31st, then like we would start negotiating a long-term lease, or at least I mean that was my understanding.
That was your understanding at the last meeting that we left? Because if that was understanding, then there would have been no reason for me to redo my proposal. And my understanding was that the only reason why I had agreed to stay there another 3 months or go ahead with the extension is because I couldn't move out as fast. And it was basically, first it started off, take the stair down or get out by the end of this month. Then it was like, okay, we got the stairs down. Okay, so you could stay a little bit longer. But I have all these reservations and complaints. And so it was like, well, we could get you a new activation. And I'm like, okay, well, then I might as well try to plan on leaving, which is going to be hard. And I was like, well, we know that's going to be hard for you. I mean, we can get you an extension, but nobody ever said that if we give you an extension, then we're not going to still pursue looking for you a new place. That was not it. And then still at this moment, I've been there 6 months. You're saying you can extend me for up to 9, but with everything that we've gone through, you're all ready to tell me that you're ready to start negotiating a lease when you could potentially even still give me 3 more months.
We can't. So it is up to 9 months, but it's at the discretion of the property manager. On your contract, the initial lease agreement, it has said that it was a 3 months additional period for both Christina and you, but the the landlord was only agreed to an extension up to July 31st. That's all he agreed to. So us, like, we try to negotiate and push more and more and more to landlords and property managers to have you have the maximum of months within Seattle Restored. But unfortunately, a lot of property managers don't want that and don't like that. Most of my activations they last around like 4 to 6 months usually. Just because the property managers don't want to stay within Seattle Restored that long. At some point, they want to start making actual profit, which is why, like last week or 2 weeks ago, like we talked, I talked to you about long-term lease agreement with potentially the help of Susanna, if you wanted to. So I think as of right now, like I can still put you in contact with Susanna if you want to go.
Sammy, I'm sorry to stop. I really, I'm going to play facilitator right now. I'm asking if everyone can go around and state what they understood. how we left and what our agreements were. Because I can go. This is what I understood, Antoinette. I understood that given the action steps that we were going to take. So in my notes, it was, we were going to professionally clean your space. We were going to give ample space heaters. I think 4 were provided. And then that
Space heaters this week.
and I know you don't think it was enough, but I'm just talking about what I understood us agreeing to at the last meeting, so that the purchasing of the space heaters, and I think you also purchased kind of your own like heat source, right? That and I'm not sure if it was you were able to plug it in or not. And that you were okay given those, and then we were going to reimburse you for the stairs. We were also going to find a contractor and pay for the stair removal, and that you were going to work with Sabrina on updating your proposal, and that you had agreed based off of those action steps to stay until July 31st, which was the end of what the landlord was giving you, the program, the lease, as an extension, and that we shared with you that that there were, that we would propose your proposal as new activations come up that matched you, right? Of the things that you were needing in terms of square footage, in terms of use of the space, all that good stuff. But with the caveat that we told you that there is no guarantee, because we can do our part in submitting like we do with everybody on the short list and match. But at the end of the day, it is not up to the program to decide who gets to go where. It's up to the landlord. And that you, from my understanding, understood that, and that we were going to move forward with those action steps. And it sounds like most of them, like the stairs and all that were done, but there are a few loose ends in terms of receipts and I don't know what else is there, but that, just letting you guys know, that is what I understood walking away from the April meeting.
Jen, do you want to go?
Yeah, I think I came away with the same thing. And again, like, I remember us having this discussion about if you wanted to stay in the space through July, and being like, I don't know. And I remember when we started out, you were not wanting to stay. And then we were kind of talking through the logistics of moving out of the space, what would happen then. And also with the caveat that we couldn't guarantee finding another space, just like anyone on the short list isn't guaranteed a space. It would just be putting you back into that position. And if something came up in the time, and then we kind of, my understanding is like we left with you being like, okay, I think it makes sense for me to stay here.
That was like a for now thing, but yeah. Okay.
And then Sabrina, I'd like you to go, and then Antoinette, I'd love to hear what you walked away with.
I'll just say that I did, when you were updating your proposal and everything, that was also similar to what Shira and Jen just said about how we would continue to see if there were any spaces that have been matching your idea for the space. I remember you mentioning you wanted something where you could have a separate space for your events, and we just haven't come across any spaces that, a lot of the spaces we've come across are like 3,000 square feet. And you said, 1,100 accessible square feet, not just 600 in a balcony. But that is something that we wanted. So there were very specific things that came out of that, and we have been looking. But then the other thing was that you decided to stay, and we hadn't heard from you after you updated. And so we just I also thought that you wanted to stay through July and that you were happier in the space now and that things were working out. So that is why Sammy did reach out after and was like, hey, the property manager wants to get in touch with you because we saw that you were happy. We were following you on social media and it seemed like everything was going great. But
I mean, I have to seem happy on social media. I still have to carry on with my business and I still have to make the best of things. I can't just be on there crying every day and complaining about my situation. I have to get on there and put on a happy face. I have to get on there and, make the best of it and still try to get people to come down there and patronize my business because now I have committed myself to that. And so that's where I'm at. And that is how I have to make a living wage. So yes, I do that. Nothing about that says that it was still happy. I still haven't had any events in that space. Not really. I mean, people came by for the art walk. It was pretty nice. But other than that, the like I said, I know, like we know, even if we said that, okay, you told me that I'd had a full activation, but how long was I there before you actually did the things that you would even you believe to had made me more comfortable in the space? How long was I there before that? That still counts, towards.
We're not counting that. Sammy and I discussed this and we were counting starting May 1st. And that's 3 months through the end of
So 3 months. So yeah, so I just wanted to point that out.
Absolutely.
But so yeah, that wasn't my understanding, but
what was your understanding, Antoinette? What was your understanding after we left that's different than what you heard us say today?
Is different than what you heard, what I heard you say today. Maybe it was could have been my lack of just continuing to follow up, but at this point I have felt defeated already and all I've had is complaints, and so why just keep beating a dead horse? So I didn't see needs to keep contacting and to keep reminding that I'm not happy here, or that I still never talked to the landlord, or that it's still freezing, and and all this other type of stuff. The windows still aren't sealed, all these things that are going on. And I didn't feel it was necessary to do that, but I still did believe that I was just waiting it out, to be able to find a new activation. And hopefully I was waiting it out there. And by the time the wait was up, we'd be able to find somewhere else for me to move into.
Do you remember the conversation though, in terms of understanding that there is no guarantee for a second space?
I understand that there is no guarantee, as in there's no guarantee for anybody at the same time. If we're talking about that, there's just that doesn't change anything, because from the beginning there was no guarantee, right? So I basically was back in the same position, in the same pot, waiting, hoping that you guys put your best foot forward to help find me a place.
Right. So I think, what and just because clarity is so important to me, I think we've had enough miscommunications. I just wanted to understand, aside, I don't see clearly like any major differences in what we all understood, right? Even from what you said, Antoinette, because my understanding is we all agreed that you're going to stay until July 31st. We all agreed that you would update your proposal, and that, you would be proposed if your proposal matched with a space, and that in the interim time, we would kind of take care of the cleaning, the stairs removal, the reimbursements for that. I guess I'm just trying to understand where we went wrong from our last conversation. Like, what didn't happen that we need to address still?
Well, what set me off is when I got to thinking about it, and it was really the fact that now we're proposing for me to stay there long term. And like I said, I can't say that I hate that place, but at the end of the day, the things aren't in place. The things aren't going to be done that need to be done for that to even be a comfortable place for me to run my business. And that was the case from the second that I stepped foot in there. And it's still the case. And now we're talking about me staying there long term, which means that you guys were ready to basically pass me off, you know, and be done with me when I had sat here and endured so much. Like,
I, again, I'm not saying that that's not how you feel. I think the way that that's phrased is incorrect though, because the way that um, we're not going to gatekeep and like have the landlord ask if you want to stay and have a conversation about a long-term lease and not tell you. So where we're at right now in everything is that Sammy heard from the landlord, and we didn't know this back in April. Like no one knows if the landlord's going to want to negotiate a long-term lease. They happen to actually want to negotiate now. Nobody knew this in April. And so the passing along and kind of being done with you, I don't agree with, because every time a property owner offers a long-term lease conversation, because it's not a lease yet, it's a conversation that they want to have. What Sammy did is the same thing that Sammy does to every other activation and business owner, and just relaying the information and leaving it up to the business owner to decide whether or not they want to move forward or not. But that's not up to us to decide for you. And so I don't want you to feel like you have to do anything, because really where we're at right now is just presenting you information, new information that wasn't there in April.
I do understand. I do understand. But yeah, I don't know. It just, yeah, I understand.
I mean, I'll tell you, when I signed my first lease for a commercial space, it's hard. I mean, it is not an easy decision. And then the experience that you had in the space, the feeling of the property owner, not talking until now, those are things that your gut is telling you. And from what I can tell, you have a really good gut. And so, again, that those decisions are for you to make. And I think that's what makes entrepreneurs, is that they stomach a lot. They make hard decisions that are risky. You don't know where it's going to go. But I think one thing that is different, that Seattle Restored participants have in this moment, in this phase, as a business owner for you, is we have Susanna Tran, who has been, I think you saw her, right? Because you went to the leasing workshop.
Yes.
So Susanna represents and has been representing Seattle Restored participants that had agreed to wanting to take the next step and having the conversation with their landlord. I'll tell you, it's probably even harder than what, in terms of the process, because it's real. Like, you're not a subtenant anymore. You're signing the dotted line on the liability fully, right? And that's something to not take lightly. However, Susanna is a professional, and that's kind of what I said in my email is, in terms of a program, yeah, Sammy, Sabrina, Jen, myself, we set up a program that we present to landlords, and that's a program. that involves a short-term lease, that is more of a template where there's really no negotiation in that template.
Mhm.
The next step in the transition of kind of what's in front of you and the decision, you know, you have to make is now it's real. You have an opportunity to speak with the property owner. The fact that they asked is a good sign, and that they're interested, but it doesn't mean you have to sign still. It's just a conversation. If you don't get the terms that you want, you walk away without blinking an eye. But this is the moment that you then say, I want this, and that, plus that fixed. And until that happens, this is not a space for me. And obviously, you wouldn't go at that. There's so much about small business, and what I've learned is it's about relationships, right? So, and I think that's why you
Okay, one
wanted.
second, one second. Let me turn this computer off because
Okay.
it's gonna die in a second.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I had to switch devices.
No worries. Oh, yay, we can finally see you again. Okay, I think there's feedback.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, that's really where we're at right now, and why, you know, I think we're having the conversation that we're having. This is new information. I don't think anything from what we understood from April changed. It's just new information is presented, and that Sammy did his job and sent and gave you that information.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
So I guess my question is, Antoinette, like what do you need to feel like you can make an informed and confident decision with what is being proposed to you right now?
A lawyer.
Oh, girl, we are trying to get one on a consultant basis, so it's free too, but that's hard.
So, yeah, because at this moment, I don't know what to do. At this moment, I don't. Like I know I have some tough decisions to make. And whatever the case may be, I need to be prepared for it. So I will be trying to get you those receipts as soon as possible, because, you know, even moving out of here will be a lot for me. Just at this point, I just need some time to think a little bit about what has transpired and where I could even see this going from here. I mean, you say I can still talk to Susanna Tran, but I mean, how far is that going to get me with what has nothing has happened? I mean, and then even if the guy was willing to make it, bring the place to where it was more inhabitable, I'd still have to move out for him to be able to do that. I mean, even the heaters that you guys brought me, they trigger the electrical. So if I leave it on for more than 15 or 20 minutes, it it turns off the whole power on one whole side of the building, whatever side of the building that is plugged in. Like, he would have to redo the electrical, the windows, floors, pipes hanging out the wall, holes in the floor, like, you know, all kinds of stuff going on in there that he would have to fix. I'd still have to look at moving my stuff out for him to be able to do that. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I think that, you know, I should have had a better gut when it came to accepting this activation, because if I would have been more informed and more knowledgeable at that time, then I probably would have not accepted this activation. And now I just have to figure out how to get out of it. Mhm.
Yeah. And like the majority of folks are deciding not to move forward in their spaces. And so you're definitely not alone in that. The program is a pop-up program with the hope that some folks stay. But I don't think that I would hope that that's not the end of you trying to find a space if that's what you're really interested in. And I think that's where the other option is to, first of all, being represented by a broker doesn't cost the tenant anything. So I always suggest that you actually are represented. And typically, real estate lawyers don't come in until they have a lease to review. So if you're interested in kind of like the process, but are you interested in the broker services to look for another space? I guess I'm just curious, like,
Yes, I do want to look for another space. I just, like I said, I just want to be way more informed on this process ahead of time. And I don't feel like I went into this with the proper tools and knowledge. And I see now that there are a lot more things coming up where you guys are working to get people the tools and knowledge that they need. But unfortunately, I just came in at a time where I guess that wasn't in place for me. So didn't have those tools, did not have that knowledge. And we see where that has gotten me. So, yeah. No. Shoot, but when you statistically look at the demographic of people that you're dealing with, there are some ones that, you know, we're lucky enough to be placed in a position and environment to have more knowledge. But statistically, most of this demographic does not. So I guess that's it. I don't know what to do, but I'll get you the receipts. I definitely want to talk with the broker. And you know, I'll continue to take some classes and some courses when they fit into my schedule, and continue to learn more.
Do you want me to put you in contact with Susanna? Doesn't mean that it has to be regarding that space in particular. She can answer questions that you might have, just like regarding commercial leases and commercial spaces in general. And maybe like, I mean, she has also like has a role of like consultant in some ways. So like if you don't know what to do, she could help you kind of like remove like the mist around like some of the areas that are great. Does that make sense? Do I make sense?
Maybe try to, like, you know, point me in the right direction to, you know, get the information or get more information to make a more informed decision. Yes, I do understand. There's probably a lot of different ways that she can help me, or at least help me become more informed. Yes.
And I would just say she's not tied to this space, so she can help you try to find another space that would work better for you too if you choose not to stay where you're at. So Susanna will can help you regardless of if you're staying or going.
Okay.
And you know, also it's also still on the table. If you, I think that I think sometimes the best learning is like in uh when you're actually, it's like you're in it, like you're learning while you're doing. And I mean, feel free to even try to learn about the process by engaging in what the negotiation would be for this space. Like again, having the conversation and negotiating does not mean you're saying yes. It doesn't mean that you're signing on the dotted line. It doesn't mean you're having to put any money into this. It's an opportunity for you to actually see what they would be willing to do,
Okay,
if
you're
that's
right.
even interesting to you. And probably a really good learning opportunity to understand commercial lease negotiation, with not theoretical, but like with your business. And
Yes, indeed.
so, you know, again, not trying to say anything in terms of how you should move forward, but continuing to put options in there for you to hopefully, you know, make a decision that feels right for you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So yes, I would like to talk to Susanna. I would.
One thing that I would want to suggest, Sammy and Sabrina, is like I know that the area is really important to you, Antoinette, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what's happening with the space next door, um, or other spaces that this property owner has around Pioneer Square. But if you can ask, I think, again, this is not tied to this space, but I understand like how important the neighborhood is, having, you know, you shared your history with your family and like Yesler and like specifically that area and why it meant a lot to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a thought that I just had, that it might be good just to kind of see what other inventory that they have.
I will admit that, the pain and frustration that this has caused has blocked my views a little bit. And it's only until maybe over the last couple of weeks that I feel like I've been calming down and trying to come back into myself so that I could communicate clearly and articulately what it is that I actually want to convey. And so that has left me not seeing all the possibilities in the situation because I had already felt let down and let go of. Mhm. So, moment of honesty.
No,
So,
we really appreciate that, and we're very sorry that that is the way that things went, and that's how you feel. Because it was never our intention for that to happen. What I will say to Shira's point, like regarding the space next door as well, I thought about that. The only thing is it's much bigger, so it's going to be much more expensive. So these are just things to think about that Susanna would really help you work through. But
definitely. So yeah. I definitely want to take that trip with Susanna and just see. I like to talk to her, have those conversations and take a look at the impossibilities with somebody who is more informed than the information that we all have. Okay, so yeah.
Definitely. I feel like she's really good. She succeeded, like we talked about it, but like she negotiated for every that you already know and every
Mhm.
night of the space. And for Sierra and Simone, like for inside in downtown, I just learned from River as a downtown. So I mean, like not necessarily like for that space, but like just for in general. Like I just wanted to say that like she's very knowledgeable and
Okay.
very good at what she
She's good at what she does. Yes, indeed.
And she's better, Antoinette, when you give her the stuff that she asks for. If
Okay.
she's going to be asking you for your finances, your business plan, she's going to tell you this isn't good. You need this. You need to do this better. So just, just prepare mentally and for time wise for that, because if she is able to get from you what she needs to do her job better, it oftentimes it's better results for everybody. So just letting you know, it's the work's just starting if you're going to say yes to this. But like everyone said, she will go to bat if she has the information about your business that
Okay.
makes you look the best. So I think just for next steps, I'm hearing that we're gonna set up a meeting with you and Susanna to start the conversation about what are your options. Sammy and Sabrina, if we can let Susanna know that this is not specifically tied to this space because of its condition,
yeah, of course.
but that there's interest specifically in A, learning about the process, and B, the neighborhood. And then Antoinette, let Susanna know what other neighborhoods you might be open to.
Definitely.
And then I know that Antoinette requested the recording. So when the recording is done, could you send that to everybody, but also write what are our agreed next steps, and when that's going to happen? I really want to do right by you, Antoinette, and just to make sure that we don't miscommunicate and that everybody has a clear understanding of what we're doing and moving forward. And if there's anything in the email that we missed or you didn't necessarily, agree to or anything, please
Okay.
respond back. I think the key here is consistent communication.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I think if everyone could send just like to the Seattle Restored email, like 2 sentences or something of what you took from this in terms of next steps, that would be super helpful to get it all down. And then we can squash any miscommunication right then.
Okay.
So that would be really great.
And then, yeah,
Okay.
I think, and then that way you can add anything else, Antoinette, that you might want to add to that. So, okay. Is there anything else that folks wanted to bring up or other topics, Antoinette? We've got about 9 more minutes. Or
No,
yeah. mhm.
no,
I have a 3:30. Sorry.
that's okay. I am good to go. Good to go.
Alrighty. Well, thanks everybody for your time. Appreciate your honesty. I know, Antoinette, I know it's probably not easy, especially with all of us having this conversation with you. So thank you very much for your honesty.
You're welcome. And thank you guys. Thank you for everything. And until we meet again.
All right.
You guys have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Okay,
Antoinette.
bye-bye.